Breaking news out of Dallas, Texas. We have just learned moments ago that the shooting of people at an ICE facility in Dallas is yet another example of radical left-wing violence, including messages inscripted on bullet casings. Again, we're going to give you all those details and show you everything that we know as of now. And by the way, while that shooting was taking place, like within moments of that shooting taking place, Hillary Clinton sat on the set of Morning Joe and doubled down on the heated rhetoric, accusing Trump of being an authoritarian and being a dictator and all the same fascist garbage talk that continues to lead people to take up arms and try to kill whoever disagrees with them. We're going to give you all those details, show you what Hillary Clinton said coming up in just a moment. Plus, the big return of Jimmy Kimmel. We'll break down his non-apology and also dry up his crocodile tears for you. And we'll also show you how they continue to double down on the misinformation and the lies about conservatives and about Trump and about America. Also, we found the government censors. We found the authoritarians who are trying to censor and trample on the free speech rights of every American. And it ain't Trump. It was Biden. They talked about it on CNN last night, brought in a congressman, and that segment actually had more misinformation, more deceit, more lies than any YouTube video that ever got censored at the command of Joe Biden. We're going to show all of that to you, and it's going to be glorious. We're in this together. Thanks for watching. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Thank you for subscribing to our channel, wherever you're watching us, whatever platform you're watching, and make sure you give us a like right now and be engaged in that chat room. There's going to be a lot to talk about in this show, and we really like to see your back and forth with each other with this community that we've created. So subscribe, like, and coming up in a little bit, we will be interacting with your super chat. So if you want some shout outs and you want me to answer your questions, go ahead and throw a super chat our way. Even on the Rumble platform, we have ways of getting your super chat over here as well, and we'll make sure that we interact with you coming up in just a sec. When inflation jumps, when you hear that the national debt is over $37 trillion with a T, do you ever think that maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Well, stop putting it off. Whether as a hedge against inflation or just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold, and they want to make it easy for you. Until September 30th, you've only got, 6 days left on this offer. Well, 7, including today. If you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit now. Just text Larry to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And you're still eligible for that rebate in free metals of up to $10,000. Birch Gold can help you. Make right now the time for you to contact Birch Gold. Take advantage of this rebate up to $10,000 by September 30th. Text my name, Larry, 989898. That's my name, Larry, to 989898. Do it today. This morning, there was a deadly shooting in Dallas. The target, an ICE facility. There was a lot of speculation about what was going on. What we know as of this moment, 5 minutes after 12 o'clock Eastern on this 24th day of September, is that 4 people were shot. 2 are dead. One of those 2 is the shooter by self-inflicted wound. Let's take it right to the press briefing given by an FBI special agent on the ground mere moments ago.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack. This will be a whole of government response. There will be no resource not utilized to bring all those individuals who are responsible to bring them to justice and to hold them accountable. While we're not releasing identities of any victims at this time, what I can confirm for you is no members of law enforcement were hurt during this attack.
Now, praise God for that, but that doesn't mean that those members of law enforcement weren't the targets of this attack. This, of course, comes on the heels of Governor Gavin Newsom signing into law a provision that would prohibit law enforcement from concealing their faces or wearing masks of any sort to conceal their identity, lest they be doxxed while carrying out official duties. Now, of course, that has no enforcement over ICE officials, and the cries have been coming from the left and from the Democrats and from the media that it's ICE agents who are concealing their faces to viral videos by to protect their family members from being doxxed and harm coming their family members' way, that they are in some way acting outside of the law, which they are not. Federal law enforcement can do that if their superiors allow them to do it for good reason and for credible threats. And there is nothing illegal about that, especially if you are carrying out your duties under a lawful command and in compliance with federal law. Not one incident or complaint about a federal law enforcement official, ICE or otherwise, concealing their face lest they go viral, has been provided that has validated this concern that there are people operating outside of the law. Every single agent, you may not like the look of it, and I understand people not liking the look of it, but every single ICE agent who is carrying out their duty via lawful command from their direct superior, who are concealing their face, are acting under the cover of the Constitution and their due authority. And when asked to identify themselves, the people that they are obliged to identify themselves to do get their identification. Some random person on the street saying, "Tell me who you are, what's your name," you don't have the right to demand their identification, nor do they provide it to you. But all of the rhetoric and all of the obscene language used about federal law enforcement officers who are carrying out their duty and finally actually enforcing the law that Congress has passed, well, I think it's led to these violent attacks against them. And it's the politicians who are to blame. Think about every single Democrat in the Senate or in the House of Representatives who are screaming about ICE agents doing their job. They are literally enforcing the laws that those very same Democrats in the House and the Senate have passed into law. They pass a law, law enforcement enforces the law, and then they scream at law enforcement and demonize them and put them in harm's way. That's what's going on here, folks. And if those Democrats in the House and the Senate don't like the laws that are being enforced, gee, I've got an idea. How about proposing a change to those laws? But of course, they won't do that because they know they will lose their next election. So instead, they demonize the cops for enforcing their laws. And then we see what happened today. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas was on the scene, and he gave some remarks to the media as well.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree. That's fine. That's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking each other, And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of ICE and CBP and everyone who puts their lives on the line to keep us safe. The divisive rhetoric tragically has real consequences. I hope that every one of us will pray, number one, for the safety of law enforcement that are risking their lives to keep us safe. Number two, for the health of those who were shot and injured today. We still don't know the full details of who was injured, but for the families also of the victims of this shooting. Violence has no place. It is wrong. And we should come together. If we want to have a debate about immigration policies, we can do so in the halls of Congress without demonizing each other, and especially without demonizing the men and women who every day put on a badge and go risk their lives to keep us safe. And we should not be putting language out there that inspires madmen to commit evil crimes. Our prayers are with the men and women of law enforcement, and we ought to come together and have some decency across the political aisle to say this violence is wrong and it needs to stop.
All right. Now, those were great words from Senator Cruz, and I would only quarrel with calling this murderer a madman. We don't know that he's mad. We don't know that he's crazy. We don't know that he's insane or delusional, bipolar, or suffering from mental illness. What we know is that he is a criminal. He is a murderer. He has no sense of morality. He has no sense of ethics. He could very well be evil. And of course, he's killed himself now, so he is also a coward. But we need to stop using the language of the left by writing off criminal acts as merely because of some class or economic strata, which came from the Marxists, or that's mental illness. Oh, that murderer, mental illness. Oh, the person who tried to kill Trump, mental illness. The person who killed Charlie Kirk, mental illness. He's crazy. Clearly, he's crazy. No, evil exists. I'm sorry, you plan out a murder like that? You're not nuts. You are very well of sound mind. Absolutely. While those bullets were flying, while someone was trying to murder ICE agents, you know, the stormtroopers to Donald Trump's Hitler, while they were scrawling anti-ICE messages on bullet casings and then firing them into the ICE facility, Hillary Clinton, as this was going on, Hillary Clinton was on Morning Joe, utilizing the exact rhetoric that got us to this place. And by the way, she cloaked all of that evil, demonizing, divisive rhetoric within the cozy confines of, oh, we just need to get along. We need to stop demonizing each other. Watch this and try to keep your breakfast down.
We've got to stop demonizing each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I think most of that right now in our country's history is coming, from the right.
In the same breath. Yes, I'll start it over. You can see the whole clip. In the same breath. We have got to stop demonizing each other, but it's all coming from the right. Really, ma'am? Because we have a corpse right now. We have a president with a deformed ear because of a bullet. Just yesterday, his second assassin was convicted in a court of law. And now we've got somebody inspired by your pals shooting up an ICE facility while she says this. Oh my gosh, we've got to stop demonizing each other. Of course, it's all coming from those crazy Nazi fascists. But yeah, we got to stop demonizing each other. All right, fine. I'll just start it from the top. Sorry about that.
We've got to stop demonizing each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I think most of that right now in our country's history is coming, from the right, coming from people who want to dominate. They want their point of view. Writing out slavery from history, that doesn't make it go away. We have got to stop with the finger pointing and the scapegoating. We have got to stop
So as she's finger pointing. She says we have to stop finger pointing. And everyone on Morning Joe's, that's right. Thank you, Hillary. You're just brilliant. And so she kept going.
And I'm proud of the fact that we have always been a work in progress. You know, we haven't gotten to the more perfect union, and we fought a civil war over part of it. Mm-hmm. And people have been protesting, you know, for hundreds of years that, you know, things were not as they should be given our ideals and how we should be moving toward them. So I think that's what makes us so special as a country. And the idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by, you know, let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion, a certain point of view, a certain ideology, is just doing such damage to what we should be aiming for. And we were on the path toward that. I mean, imperfectly, lots of, you know, bumps along the way, but I agree with you. We were on the right trajectory.
What I love about this country, says Hillary Clinton, is how awful it is. The greatness of our country is, well, let me just crap all over it. And, oh, by the way, the people who are in charge now are trying to turn the clock back and give power to all the white Christian men. And we can't do that. And so, of course, it's open. Say, again, white Christian men, they're the problem. Well, it's funny because it was a white Christian man who ended up with a bullet in the throat last week, inspired by people like this, who say, yeah, we're all going to lose our rights. We're not going to have a free election again because they're all trying to give power back to white Christian men. Hey, look, here's an outspoken white Christian man. He supports Trump. Let's kill him. They don't even see what they're doing, or they see what they're doing very shrewdly, and they keep doing it. She wasn't done. There was more.
View it as very dangerous. It is right out of the authoritarian playbook, Willie. I mean, this is, you know, this is point 4 of the authoritarian playbook. Silence your opponents. Cripple the media that doesn't give you the slavish attention and agreement that you desire.
Silence your opponents. She was literally Trump's political opponent in 2016. Does she seem silenced? Does she seem incapable or unallowed to be able to? You can't shut this woman up. It's all she's been doing since the day she lost in that humiliating, devastating, glorious defeat on election night in 2016. They don't even hear themselves. I am President Trump's chief political opponent, and he's silencing his opponents. And I'm going to sit here for the next hour on this beautiful multi-million-dollar set telling you how I'm being silenced. All right, let's let her finish.
Use the power of the government to go after corporations and individuals. I thought, you know, Jimmy Kimmel did an excellent job last night in, you know, being very emotional, actually, about that moment for him and how he felt misunderstood. And he certainly didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But on the other hand, you know, standing up for free speech. I've said a million times, I mean, good Lord, the things that have been said about me, the lies that have been propagated. If I had only known, I could call up the FCC chair and say, take this person off the air. Get that person out of my sight, off with his head. Yeah. I'm just looking at Joe.
What?
Yeah,
what? I've done nothing but.
Okay, so before they get all chummy and giggly with each other, couple things here, Hillary. First of all, Donald Trump did not pick up the phone and tell the FCC chair, off with his head, get him off the air. In fact, there is no evidence whatsoever that the FCC chair communicated with the network or with the broadcast station groups in any way whatsoever, number one. Number two, if you didn't notice, Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air. So if he's such an authoritarian fascist who used the FCC to say off with his head, get him off the air, well, he's pretty bad at it because he was back on the air. Number three, Hillary, you couldn't do that even if you wanted to. You couldn't ever. If you wanted to pick up the phone and call the FCC chair and say, get that guy off the air, I don't like him, you couldn't do that. Do you know why? Because you lost, babe. You were never president. Is she delusional? What is this? Oh, if only I didn't realize I could just pick up the phone. Oh, no. You couldn't, Hillary, because you lost. But still, here's all the language. Again, authoritarianism, textbook authoritarianism, silence your critics. You see the scenario they're building up for the fever swamp who watch these shows, who then end up scrawling messages on bullet casings and firing them into crowds of innocent people. The shooting at the Dallas ICE facility, which was a political hate crime from the left, was happening literally in real time as she was doing this. And of course, she turned it right back to Trump.
Look at what they're doing in the Caribbean. Shooting boats, boats with 7, 10 people in them. These are not, destroyers. These are not frigates. These are little motorboats. These are, boats in the Caribbean. They're shooting them out of the water. No due process, no real definition of why, other than they must be drug runners. They don't know that. And besides, given the power of the United States Navy, they could pull them over. They could find out if there's something in there. They don't have to kill those people. The former president of the Philippines, Duarte, is in the International Court of Justice right now because he did that in the Philippines. He went around and he goes, this guy looks like a drug dealer. Kill him. He had gangs of government-sanctioned killers killing people he determined were drug users or drug dealers.
All right, so there she is comparing Donald Trump to an international war criminal, apparently, or somebody who is being tried as an international war criminal, who has military junta gangs going out at his request. So that's also how she characterizes the U.S. military under Donald Trump. Thanks for that. By the way, also, if I may, she's just an ignoramus. I mean a moral ignoramus. She's actually quite smart. That's what makes her so dangerous and so despicable. But morally, she is an ignoramus. We go, oh, they're just in a little speedboat. They couldn't do anything. You forgive me if I get a little emotional about this, Madam Secretary of State. But how dare you minimize the kind of damage that somebody can do? And it wasn't a destroyer. It was just a speedboat. Okay, Hillary, let me give you a little history lesson, if I could. And yes, I will get emotional about this because I have family members in the United States Navy. Just like those members of the United States Navy who were on the USS Cole, who lost their lives because a harmless little speedboat in the Persian Gulf came rolling past the USS Cole, and it was populated by terrorists from Al-Qaeda. And they rammed into the Cole and exploded all the explosives they had on their boat, ripped a hole in the side of the USS Cole, and killed members of the United States Navy. Guess who was president when that happened? Your husband. The commander of the Cole, Kirk Lippold, actually asked for more rules of engagement while they were in dock because he was suspicious of activity that appeared to be potential terrorism. And under your husband, the president of the United States, Bill Clinton, he was told to just stand down. It's fine. After all, what can a harmless little speedboat do? Yeah, I'll say it again. You Wouldn't it have been great if Joe Scarborough, who was a member of Congress when the USS Cole attack happened, reminded her of that moment? Said, are you sure you want to say that a speedboat is harmless considering the American sailors and seamen who lost their lives under your husband's watch? Remember? I remember. That was happening in real time today as there was another left-wing terrorist attack at the ICE facility in Dallas. Last night, though, we had this from Gavin Newsom. Now, understand, just imagine you're the person who ended up taking a rifle this morning and shooting up innocent people at an ICE facility. Imagine if you were watching Colbert last night and you saw this from Gavin Newsom.
Look, we had a 15-year-old disabled kid in Los Angeles was waiting for his sister to come out of high school, and they pulled out guns on this kid. They pulled out guns and handcuffed this young child. That's happening in the United States of America. Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process, no oversight, zero accountability, happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here in this country. And so I'm deeply proud that I had the privilege of signing the nation's first bill to address the issue of masking. Also to require, you have simple identification, to your point. I mean, if some guy jumped out of an unmarked car in a van with a mask on, tried to grab me, I mean, by definition, you're going to push back. And so these are not just authoritarian tendencies. These are authoritarian actions by an authoritarian government. You saw what Stephen Miller said last week. This should put chills up spine. Called the Democratic Party an extremist organization, basically a terrorist organization, saying he's going after his enemies. You saw the tweet that Donald Trump sent out, Truth Social, basically telling Pam Bondi, I want these 3 people taken out. That's happening in the United States. This can't be normalized. None of this can be normalized.
So watching that, hearing that from Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, an honored guest on Stephen Colbert, and apparently the front runner for the Democrats' nomination in 2028, spread lies about ICE agents saying that they're disappearing people unlawfully and without due process on the streets of California while wearing masks on behalf of the authoritarian Trump regime. If you're motivated by that kind of thing and you're in the fever swamp and that's all you watch, is it any wonder that potentially this morning, after watching Newsom last night, you decided to take action against those ICE agents in Dallas? I can connect those dots pretty easily, can't you? And if that wasn't enough, what about Tim Walz, the man who was selected to be the vice president had Kamala Harris won the election? What did he say about ICE agents?
Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
There you go. They're being disappeared, masked agents, shoving them into vans. This is what they've been saying all year without any pushback, with complete and total impunity. Is it any wonder that we've seen more violence today against this ICE facility, resulting in at least 1 innocent death, including then a second death of a self-inflicted wound of the murderer himself? This is not a one-off. This is not a coincidence. Just a little taste here.
ICE is looking more and more like an American Gestapo.
They're huddled around the elevator banks in masks without identifying information. What a terrifying, these are Gestapo tactics.
But it has created this year, as they've seen, the kind of fascist ICE Gestapo militias go round up Latino American citizens in places like LA.
ICE agents, masked ICE Gestapo agents, getting more funding than any other law enforcement agency in the history of the United States.
ICE running Gestapo-like around our country.
The Gestapo had the same function. It was there to draw a distinction between us and them. It was not federally, it was controlled by the leader. And we're seeing disturbing similarities between this force and the Gestapo.
We've got these masked thug cowards kidnapping innocent people and sending them off to be slaves or tortured in other countries.
Dressing like thugs and acting like thugs.
People still want to come here despite the crazy. They still want to come here because they know in this land, their voice is protected. Their rights are protected, and there won't be jackbooted thugs coming in wearing masks over their face to take them off the streets. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Simone, that's happening.
Oh, it's happening.
That's happening, right?
You know, it's funny. You call law enforcement officers fascists and thugs and the Gestapo enough times, and some Americans might even start believing you, and they might do something about it. All right, give me a minute to set up here on the next segment, because that one was all over the place. And then we'll pick up our next segment in a moment. Stand by. While we're at it, by the way, we will be doing your super chats coming up in just a bit. So if you want a super chat, make sure you put up a super chat and we'll interact with you. All right, let's get right to it. Well, last night it was the big return of Jimmy Kimmel, and he talked about what got him off the air, took him off the air for a week. He didn't apologize. He continued to lie. He doubled down on deceit. And then he had some crocodile tears. And I guess we're all supposed to just hold hands now and give him a big hug and forgive him. Not so fast. We'll show you what he had to say, and we'll break down all the lies that he threw out there coming up in a quick second. First, though, the evening began with Jake Tapper. Well, it's funny. It didn't begin because technically Jake Tapper on Seth Meyers was on the air later in the night. His show's on at 12:30 because he's doing great, that Seth Meyers. But this was taped earlier in the day, as all these shows are. And this clip was put out ahead of Jimmy Kimmel's statement show. Let me tell you what Jake Tapper had to say about a stand-up comedian being taken off the air because he lied to his audience and was insensitive and despicable to a grieving family, a grieving widow, and, well, millions of grieving Americans.
All right, Jimmy Kimmel, he's a friend of both of ours.
Yeah.
You know him, I know him. We know he's a good person. Obviously, this news is very exciting. But what was your original take on how this all went down starting last week?
I mean, I thought it was pretty much the most direct infringement by the government on free speech that I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
You have a Networks are allowed to cancel shows. It happens all the time. But this was the FCC chairman saying, local affiliates, it's time for you to say you're not going to air Kimmel anymore. And then Nexstar, which with the largest owner of local affiliates, needs approval from Brendan Carr himself to let this merger go through. Yes, sir. How high do you want me to jump, sir? They do it, and it's just insane.
Yeah,
it's just insane.
It is I mean, I'm certainly, we don't know the details as we're talking about, you know, if any sort of agreement was reached or if ABC just is sort of like, you know, there was an error in judgment. But I sort of look forward to seeing, obviously, how Jimmy responds. That'll be the most interesting piece of this.
Yeah, and well, look, I don't know why Disney and Bob Iger ultimately made the right decision and stood for free speech. They didn't initially, and that would have been the second example, because we all saw what happened with our friend Stephen Colbert and Sherry Redstone and Paramount with a different merger and a different pressure point that the government has. And we'll see what happens when they come for Comcast, and they'll see what happens when they come for Warner Brothers Discovery, and maybe you and I will be drawing comic books.
I'm worried about you.
Yeah, but you'll be putting a tinfoil hat on while you do it, because all of those things that he said is speculation. There is no evidence to suggest that any of those things, whether it was Stephen Colbert or the $30 million settlement that CBS entered with 60 Minutes with Trump for lying about him and deceptively editing the interview with Kamala Harris, or the $16 million settlement that ABC Disney settled with Donald Trump over the lies and defamation that George Stephanopoulos engaged in. All of those things, including the Kimmel speculation that he just put out there, all of those things were said without evidence. There is no proof that there is any connection with those big mergers and wanting the FCC to be kind to them and grant their mergers. But just for a second and stipulate that that might be true, so what? They're in business. That's what businessmen do sometimes. I remember during the Obama administration when I would want to watch 30 Rock and must-see TV on Thursday nights on NBC. And there was one night during Earth Week, whatever the hell that is, where the storylines of all of the sitcoms on NBC were written to focus on climate change and global warming, because the Obama administration applied pressure to GE, the corporate owner of NBC at the time, to do that. And by the way, that was in Jake Tapper's lifetime as well. But now Jake Tapper is really concerned about the government leaning on people and infringing on First Amendment rights and getting involved and meddling in content. Unbelievable. Well, let's go to Jimmy Kimmel and find out specifically exactly what he said last night when he returned. I will be interrupting this clip so that we can call out all of the bullshit.
I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear, because...
Can I just pause there for a second? If he doesn't think that his platform or his voice or his content on his show is going to in any way change anybody's mind, then why the hell does he do this? Why for the last 10 years has he devoted every single episode of his comedy show to lecturing people about politics if he doesn't think it's going to make a difference? That's pathetic. That's sad. And it's also a lie. Of course he thinks he's changing minds. That's why he does it. That's why I do this. I'm hoping that I can help you, inform you. Maybe if you disagree with me, you might at the very least see my perspective and those perspectives of all of the people in your life who disagree with you politically. So he sets this whole thing up and creates a preface of it. The entire foundation of it is built on bullshit. Wow. So self-deprecating, so humble. I don't think that anything I'm going to say is changing anybody's minds. Of course he thinks he's changing minds. Otherwise, why talk about politics every single night? Like there's nothing else that you can find that's humorous in the world? Give me a break.
It's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't.
All right. So his voice breaks there, and we're told that it's genuine emotion because he is so upset and so sad about this, which is funny because a week ago when he set up a joke about Donald Trump and apparently Donald Trump's lack of empathy in mourning Charlie Kirk's death, he literally used Charlie Kirk's death and the reaction to his death as the foundation for the joke he told about Donald Trump. So when he says that I never intended to make light of the murder of a young man, he literally used that young man's murder as the setup for what we're told was a joke. So by definition, he did intend to make light of the murder of that young man. Also, last week, when he was telling his so-called joke about Trump and he used Charlie Kirk's murder as the setup for it, did you notice his voice didn't break up with emotion then? Only now. I have no doubt that Jimmy Kimmel has regret, but it has nothing to do with what he said, and it has nothing to do with the death of Charlie Kirk. Jimmy Kimmel's regret is that he almost lost his multi-million-dollar gig. That's why he got emotional, in my opinion. But let's let him finish.
I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it.
He put something on his Instagram. Hey, I put something on my Instagram when he was killed. What more do you want from me? I don't know. Maybe when you get on your network platform and do a stand-up routine, you not make light of it. Well, so as long as you say something on your Instagram a couple of days ago, that gives you like a free reign to say whatever the hell you want, no matter how offensive. Hey, what do you want from me? I said something on my Instagram. Everything about this is phony and fraudulent, and what you're about to hear from him is obviously scripted, not by the comedy writers in his writer's room, but by the PR experts in the legal department. Listen.
Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make. But I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way.
All right, now real fast there, because what you didn't, it was a perfect opportunity for those of you who thought that I was insensitive or that it was ill-timed or that in some way I was blaming one group or another. For those of you who believe that, I am sorry. That's what he could have said, but he didn't. Instead, he said, I get it. I understand why you believe that. It's pathetic. By the way, let me roll it back real fast. I should have stopped it when he said it.
I felt either ill-timed or...
Hang on here.
Any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual.
Yeah, number one, he literally specifically delivered false information that implicated one specific group, and specifically the MAGA crowd, as he puts it. He said the MAGA crowd is doing whatever they can to assign blame for this murderer to any group other than their own. which suggests it was one of their own. That's literally what he did. He also just called him a disturbed individual. Excuse me, Jimmy, why are you using your platform to reinforce some potential insanity defense that this murderer might use? Why are you trying to taint the jury and tell the jury pool that he's insane? Because that's a legal defense. So when you call him disturbed, you're actually helping the murderer. Why don't you take those words out of your mouth, pal?
That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make. But I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who...
He did it again. That's a sick person. That's what it is. He's just sick. Tainting the jury pool, already lending credibility to the defense if this person pleads guilty or not guilty by insanity. But boy, did you see what he did there? I don't think this person belongs to any group. That's convenient now that it's widely known, even by Jimmy Kimmel in his writer's room, apparently, that this guy was from the left and motivated by left-wing politics and ideology. You see, when it's somebody who can be linked to conservatives or MAGA or Trump or to gun rights or pro-life interests, then that murderer, that school shooter, that individual, first of all, isn't sick, isn't crazy, isn't insane. That person's evil. And that person absolutely represents you and me and your parish priest and anyone else who agrees with those causes. Every single time. Every single time. The one school shooter who may have registered as a Republican is indicative of all Republicans. But this guy now, I don't think he represents anybody. He's just sick. He doesn't represent anyone. You buying this? Do you accept his non-apology because he never said he was sorry and he hasn't asked you for an apology?
Believe violence was a solution, and it isn't. It ever. And also selfishly, I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against my life, my wife, my kids, my coworkers because of what I choose to say. And I know those threats don't come from the kind of people on the right who I know and love. So that's what I wanted to say on that subject. But I don't want to make this about me because, and I know this is what people say when they make things about them, but I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
Yeah, by the way, that really loud cheer that you just heard, I've been at these shows before. I just want you to listen to this really loud cheer. It sounds like it's right next to the microphone. Listen to it.
In a country that allows us to have a show like this.
That one, that's the producer of the show. They stand right by the camera, right by the cue cards. They use cue cards, by the way. We go without a script, no teleprompter, no nothing. Yeah, this show isn't important. Well, you got that part right. All right, a little bit more from Jimmy Kimmel last night.
Sunday, Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow. If you believe in the teachings of Jesus as I do, there it was. That's it. A selfless act of grace, forgiveness from a grieving widow. It touched me deeply. And I hope it touches many. And if there's anything we should take from this tragedy to carry forward, I hope it can be that. And not this. So thank you for listening, and I'll have more to say when we come back.
I don't speak for Erica Kirk. Only Erica Kirk speaks for Erica Kirk. But I think it would have been best to leave her out of this, Jimmy. It's funny, since you invoked Jesus Christ and the Christian forgiveness that Erica has displayed so incredibly and magnanimously and graciously and amazingly, and you're right to point that out. She framed it within the words of our Lord when he said, "Forgive them, they don't know what they're doing." I think you knew what you were doing. I think you knew very well what you were doing. Also, as you now profess to be a Christian, I'm not sure what flavor you are, but as a Catholic Christian, when we ask for forgiveness, we actually ask for forgiveness. And we acknowledge our sin. If you were trying to suggest that Erica Kirk's Christian grace that she displayed to her husband's murderer is something that now should be applied to you, a huge step forward would be you, like the thief on the cross, asking for it. Now, as I said, I don't speak for Erica, and I certainly don't speak for Turning Point USA or for Charlie Kirk or his show, but this guy does. Andrew Clovet was the producer of Charlie Kirk's podcast and is one of the executives at Turning Point USA, and his reaction was this: "Not good enough, Jimmy. It's simple. Here's what you need to say. I'm sorry for saying the shooter was MAGA. He was not. He was of the left. I apologize to the Kirk family for lying. Please accept my sincere apology. I will do better. I was wrong." He didn't do that. He didn't do any of that. By the way, Sinclair, one of the station groups who still refuses to run Jimmy Kimmel's show, including last night, has said that until he does just that, and by the way, makes a personal donation to Erica Kirk and Turning Point USA, he will not return to those stations. And those are the ABC stations that are on in some of the major markets of this country, including Washington, D.C., my market. Nexstar, the other big syndicator station ownership group that runs Jimmy Kimmel's show on their stations, they have also said that they will not air his show. So all this might be for nothing, honestly. Sure, ABC puts him back on the air and they get credit from all the Hollywood wackos who said they weren't going to do Disney movies, which is a joke. And yet he's not actually seen by anyone. And eventually his contract will be up because there's no revenue if you're not on those stations in those cities. Andrew Clovet, by the way, followed up this morning on that post that he put out last night and said, yes, Jimmy got emotional. So what? He's emotional for himself because he almost torched his entire career. Exactly. Kimmel is an unrepentant liar who tried to blame Charlie's assassination on the part of the country that just spent the last 2 weeks praying and holding vigils. What he's really saying is that he still thinks it's fair game to slander conservatives. He would rather advance his own political and cultural agenda than confront the truth. The truth is that his own side has been fanning the flames of political assassinations for years. The truth is that someone on the left picked up a gun and murdered someone on the right who advocated for peaceful debate. It's critical that liars admit they lied. There can be no restoration without that. Anything short of that is a fake and scripted cry line designed to endear him to his fans, not to make right the wrong he committed. I just realized that I had not yet retweeted that. Good for you, Andrew. You got to see it in real time. Meanwhile, yesterday, a new star was born on CNN in terms of conservative commentators because nobody has gotten it spot on like former Congressman Pete Meyer, Republican, formerly of the House of Representatives. He spoke about this Kimmel situation on CNN, and what he said goes 10 times for me.
I mean, I'm really trying to plumb the depths of my profound indifference for Jimmy Kimmel's career here. But your point on the echo chambers, that's very real. And this was what got Jimmy Kimmel in this problem in the first place. He was reiterating a lie, and it is a lie, that the assassin of Charlie Kirk was motivated by right-of-center beliefs. 1 in 3 Democrats believe that.
I don't know if that's actually what he was saying.
No,
I don't think that's what he was saying.
He said that's not what he was saying, that they were trying to score political points.
But by saying it was anyone other than what it was. And again, if that was occurring in a vacuum, if you didn't have Democratic elected officials repeating that same lie, if you didn't have 1 in 3 Democrats believing that same lie, I do not think this would have that salience. And that is the problem with the echo chambers, is all of a sudden you find anything to blame everybody outside of your network. right? I do not remember the last time on any of the broadcast broadcast late night shows, there was a Republican elected representative.
That's right. That's kind of relevant too, isn't it? Now that was what day is today? That was Monday afternoon. Yesterday, they brought Meyer back because CNN did this weird like countdown to Kimmel. It was like, oh my gosh, we're just hours away from the return of Jimmy Kimmel. It's insanity. And they don't have anything else to talk about over there. So Meyer came back and he hit it out of the park again.
Larry, we're not getting any audio on this one.
Oh, that's weird. Hang on just a second. Let me try to. Why don't you put me up full screen here real fast while I reset? Thank you. Let's see if this helps.
Can you unmute the screen share?
Yeah, you bet. Stand by. I think I have to reshare.
Technical difficulties.
It's amazing after how many years of doing this show, this hasn't happened. All right, did you hear that?
Yep, go for it.
All right, here we go.
To be able to speak your mind without retribution from the government. This is a government that is controlling law firms, media companies, educational institutions, and silencing opposition at the end of the day. And it's because of the money on the table from Nexstar, their billion-dollar merger, and that Disney lost their $4 billion in market cap that is causing all of this action. They're afraid of the government. It's exactly what Donald Trump does.
Who was silenced? Nobody's silenced. We're not.
Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air. You have universities afraid to speak their mind. You have research being completely
we talk
defunded.
About the blue and the red division. Every single one of the reasons why the FCC has a role is because these are broadcast stations with a monopoly that was granted by the government.
Do you feel good about
not? No,
Do you feel
and I would hate it if the federal government came in and said, you may not say that. The reason why Jimmy Kimmel got himself into the first place is he was repeating a lie believed by 1 in 3 Democrats that the person who assassinated Charlie Kirk
He did not
had
say that.
right of center beliefs.
He did not say that.
We can parse his verbiage all day long. If he comes out and says, listen, that was not what I was trying to say, thank you. Fantastic. I appreciate that, Mr. Kimmel. The problem is that is believed. And we have spent way more time treating Jimmy Kimmel as a victim than the person who was shot and killed in front of their wife and children.
Let me ask you a question. If Joe Biden took down a prominent right-wing personality on TV for what he or she said, would you endorse that?
You're hypothetical if the Biden administration went and jawboned, let's say, social media platforms.
I'm talking about a similar allegory of someone on TV
hundreds of conservatives.
Will you answer my question?
No, that is literally what the administration that you served did. Google just released
a broadcast
all of
TV
the
host
components.
taken down for words that they say or intimidated on. I will not approve
in the
your merger.
history of
as
the
a result.
FCC, they have done that plenty of times on the right.
Was the
There's a
FCC
reason
chair saying we're
why.
going to do this the easy way or the hard way, like a mobster?
Your
Were they?
administration
Were they?
deplatformed and kicked off of social media. You want to talk about actually silencing? Having any single public outlet that you have unallowed to broadcast something, right? Jimmy Kimmel could go on MSNBC tomorrow. He's going back on ABC tonight. This man has not been silenced. Charlie Kirk's been silenced because he's dead. A lot of conservatives were silenced on social media platforms because the government threatened those social media companies. Facebook, Google, Twitter, you can go down all the list. YouTube, again, just acknowledged to Congress today that they did that at the behest of the Biden administration.
That's right. And that left-wing analyst was left speechless. Unbelievable. Imagine if Biden had done something like this. I'm sorry, did you not live through the pandemic? Have you not read the Twitter files? Do you not know that the FBI took people, deplatformed them, deleted their accounts, suspended them from social media and YouTube and other video platforms everywhere? They demonetized social media platforms that didn't march in line with what the FBI did. They debanked people left and right. I'm sorry, did you not know that thousands of people lost their jobs because they refused to get an untried and untested shot that Biden forced them to take? The churches were closed down. The people couldn't go worship or praise their Lord under Joe Biden. I'm sorry. Oh, you're right. A late night host lost his job. Meanwhile, millions of just ordinary folk couldn't say a damn thing anywhere But God forbid the $1 million late night host. That's an existential threat to the Constitution. All right, one last segment here, hopefully devoid of any technical difficulties, and then we're going to get to your super chat. So if you want to be heard, go ahead and line those up. We'll get to them next. There's a whole lot of talk about free speech and censorship and the government trying to control people's speech and their expression and their dissent in this country. And remarkably, well, it happened. It's been awful, actually. We're seeing it right before our very eyes. And it's about time we drew some attention to it. No, not Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel's just fine. Government didn't censor him, didn't silence him. No. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about me. I'm talking about anyone who disagreed with the Biden administration during the pandemic. Yesterday, House Judiciary Committee, executives from the Alphabet Corporation that controls Google and YouTube admitted under oath that that's exactly what happened. They censored you. They silenced you. They infringed on your First Amendment rights, and they did it at the behest of and under pressure from the Biden administration. Yesterday, they promised to end the bans of thousands and thousands of Americans on the YouTube platform that they had censored for political speech. Why wasn't this part of Jimmy Kimmel's opening monologue last night? Understand that all of the concerns you've heard from Democrats and teleprompter readers on cable news and broadcast news about this chill wind being blown from Washington, D.C. that's silencing any dissent and shutting down and censoring the free speech rights of Americans who disagree with the president. They care about one man, a $10 million a year mediocre comedian with low ratings, which, by the way, there's no evidence at all that the administration or the FCC directly had anything to do with Jimmy Kimmel being suspended for a week. They care about him because they agree with him and he's in the club. They don't care about you. You are powerless. You are voiceless. No one gave a crap when you were censored, when you couldn't post your opinions on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram or on YouTube. They didn't give a crap about you. And on the same day, they were all going nuts about Jimmy Kimmel or about Charlie Kirk. This happened. Thanks to the oversight of Chairman Jim Jordan at the Judiciary Committee, Google commits to offer all creators previously kicked off YouTube due to political speech violations on topics such as COVID-19 and elections an opportunity to return to the platform. Here's what came out of the Judiciary Committee yesterday. The Biden administration pressured Google to censor Americans and remove content that did not violate YouTube's policies. Understand something. The Biden administration leaned on Google, leaned on YouTube and said, you can't have this stuff. You've got to delete these people and you've got to censor them. And YouTube came back to them and said, listen, we have terms of agreement and terms of service. We have a code of conduct, and you may not like what these Americans have said on our platform, but nothing that they've done violates our terms of service. Nothing that they've said violates our code of conduct, which, by the way Google enforces that stuff, that's saying something. And the Biden administration doubled down and said, we don't care. Delete the content and censor these people, or you're going to have to answer to us. This isn't some speculation about Sinclair and Nexstar and Sherry Redstone and CBS Discovery or anything like that. This is legit. This was testified to under oath in Congress yesterday. The Biden administration's censorship pressure was unacceptable and wrong. Public debate should never come at the expense of relying authorities. The company will never use third-party fact checkers. Europe's censorship laws target American companies and threaten American speech, including the removal of lawful content. So that's the news. That happened yesterday. Now, as I've often told you, people who are in charge of the news in this country don't really follow the news. Like this guy. At the same time this hearing was taking place and this announcement was being made, Jake Tapper said this to Seth Meyers on NBC.
I mean, I thought it was pretty much the most direct infringement by the government on free speech that I've seen in my lifetime. Yeah.
That is great. It's great to see that Jake Tapper cares so much about the infringement on free speech by the government in this case. That's fantastic. Oh, I'm sorry, what? Oh, I apologize. Mr. Tapper, the only last good, honest journalist in Washington, D.C., who is a champion of the First Amendment and freedom of the press, Jake Tapper actually didn't say that about Google and YouTube and the Biden administration. No, he was saying that about Jimmy Kimmel. Because after all, Jake was at Jimmy Kimmel's birthday party. So, you know, you got to support your friends. Jake Tapper was on NBC saying that. Meanwhile, if you watched his network, CNN, Abby Phillip brought on James Clyburn to talk about Charlie Kirk and censorship and the First Amendment and Jimmy Kimmel. And remarkably, the congressman seemed just fine with what Joe Biden did with your free speech, with your First Amendment rights.
Well, I don't think they're the same, simply because Biden, if any of this took place, these weren't jokes. This wasn't a TV show. This was a pandemic. And we didn't need to have misinformation going out about this pandemic. There was enough coming from the president at the time. Put Clorox in your veins? That's the kind of foolishness.
Wait, hold on. I know Congressman Clyburn is 89 years old. And I know that at this point, he appears to be following in the footsteps of his hero, Joe Biden, and he has mashed potatoes for brains. But did you follow all of that? So when Joe Biden censored everyday Americans, it was okay because you weren't telling jokes. It's okay to censor things that aren't jokes. But if you're censoring someone who's telling jokes, that's a problem. Okay. And real fast, just follow this along with me.
Well, I don't think they're the same, simply because Biden, if any of this took place, these weren't jokes. This wasn't a TV show. This was a pandemic.
Okay, so real fast, this wasn't a TV show. This was social media. So apparently the First Amendment only applies to TV shows, you know, because when the founding fathers wrote out the Bill of Rights to the Constitution in 1789, they were really talking about TV shows, but not social media. And oh, by the way, remember that extra clause in the Constitution where everybody's First Amendment free speech rights are suspended if there's a pandemic? Yeah, I don't remember it either, but Congressman Clyburn seems to remember it because it was jokes, it was a TV show, and there was a pandemic. And what was the other point you wanted to make?
And we didn't need to have misinformation going out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's okay to delete things because we can't have misinformation during a pandemic. But it's funny, the stuff that the Biden administration was ordering Google to censor and delete from YouTube were things like, gee, I don't think this social distancing thing is really an effective scientific strategy. I've been reading up on it, and they're not doing it in Sweden and other countries. And also these masks, those don't seem to work because this isn't that kind of virus that reacts well to a mask or actually protects people, certainly not 2-year-olds, and they're forcing my 2-year-old to wear a mask. And oh, by the way, why have we shut down schools? You know, Sweden did not shut down their schools. Germany only shut down their schools for 2 weeks, and then they opened them up again, and they don't have an increased amount of people getting COVID-19 because, in fact, it turns out miraculously, children seem to be just fine with this virus when they get it. We have no casualties when it comes to children getting this virus. In fact, they might get it and then build up their natural immunity. So it would be a good thing for children to get the virus. See, if you said things like that at the time, you were censored for misinformation. And yet everything I just told you is true. They censored the truth. And they called it misinformation. And he's still doing it. And he's still doing it. And let me reiterate before I finish this clip that this happened under Joe Biden, this censorship. Joe Biden was the president. So finish it up, Congressman Clyburn.
About this pandemic. There was enough coming from the president at the time. put Clorox in your veins?
There you go. I'm sorry, Congressman Clyburn, but we're talking about the other president, Biden, not Trump. And oh, by the way, the perfect chef's kiss cherry on top of this 30-second piece of crap from Congressman Clyburn is that Trump never said inject bleach into your veins. It's a myth. He's accusing Trump of misinformation while literally delivering misinformation. Abby, jump in here, will you? Correct the record. This is an important, serious television show. What's going on here, babe? Yeah, we know what's going on. Hogan Gidley, who worked for the first Trump administration, was on the panel, and he tried his best, respectfully, to correct Congressman Clyburn.
First of all, the collective anger over someone losing their job from the left was way more than someone who lost his life, first and foremost.
That's not true.
Second of all, I would argue, Congressman, you're absolutely right. It's more important to have an open and honest, fair, robust conversation, getting different viewpoints when you have a global pandemic that came in from China that was unforeseen, that was unprecedented, and no one ever thought possible. On top of that, it's always the Republicans, it's always conservative views that get silenced, shadow banned, censored from these various algorithms. The glitches never cut the other way. The mess ups in the coding never skew against Democrats. It's always conservative.
What are you talking about? Can you
So
just
Jimmy
elaborate?
Kimmel coming back to air, fine. It was a business decision made by the parent company when he clearly wasn't going to apologize. He wasn't going to say he lied, even though he clearly did. The facts were already out there that it was not a MAGA shooter. He tried to make it so. So they have every right to kick him off the air, and they have every right to bring him back on. And Brad and I are going to disagree here. I don't care how many jokes he tells about conservatives versus liberals. I don't care how many guests he has on, whether they be more conservatives or more liberals. The marketplace will decide his fate and his future. And if he can't get ratings as he can't now, chances are his days are short on ABC.
All right. So that was very well said by Hogan Gidley and pushing back very nicely, despite the fact that, as usual, Abby Phillip kept interrupting and trying to stop him from speaking his mind. And now we get back to Brad Todd here, who you just heard Hogan Gidley refer to, and a remarkable exchange with Congressman Clyburn, where Congressman Clyburn, just now, as you heard, decries misinformation and then goes on to spew misinformation after misinformation after misinformation and lie and lie and lie about Charlie Kirk. Because Congressman Clyburn was challenged on the fact that he would not sign his name to a congressional resolution mourning the death of Charlie Kirk. Watch this and try to keep your temperature down. I've already watched it through once, and I'm hot enough as it is about it.
We do know, though, is that when Melissa Hortman, the Speaker of the Minnesota legislature, was shot, there was a commemorative resolution in the Congress, and every Republican voted for it.
Right.
When Charlie Kirk was assassinated for his political beliefs, there were 58 Democrats who would not vote for a resolution to honor him. So
And I was one of them.
Why do you
because
think it was?
I don't mind on anybody's life. I've got a problem with their legacy. And I know what the legacy of Kirk was. When I turn on my TV and I see someone telling me what an awful person Martin Luther King Jr. was. When I see somebody telling me, if I get on an airplane and there's a black pilot, I begin to wonder, is he qualified? What does that mean? Those are the words that came out of his mouth.
That's not what he said. And
That's exactly what he said. I got the exact quote.
It's not in context at all what he was talking about. It was a conversation about affirmative action. You know that, Congressman. This has been well litigated and well debated.
Of course, he knows that full well. And just in case you didn't know, and I'm sure hopefully you have seen the clip, Charlie Kirk was saying, here's the problem with DEI plans and DEI agendas and affirmative action quotas. Well, the problem is that it undermines the credibility of the people who are benefiting from them, because the suggestion is this person would not have gotten their job were it not for this intervention to elevate them and put them in the seat behind the wheel of an airline instead of perhaps somebody else who may have been more qualified. And so then what happens is you see that person and you think, oh my gosh, is this person qualified? That is a natural reaction that somebody might have. And that's the point that Charlie Kirk was making. And the reason that he makes that point, and most people try to make that point against these programs, especially under the guise of equity, where you're trying to help people who have been discriminated against in the past by bringing them in under quotas, because you just have to fill a certain number rather than the most qualified people for the job. The problem is that it undermines the credibility of those people who actually do have the job. For all you know, that could be the greatest airline pilot you've ever seen and graduated top of his class at the Air Force Academy. But because we as a society have said, we're going to do this now and we're going to bring these people up here, regardless of whether they're the most qualified or not, well, that undermines the skill and abilities of those very people you say you're trying to help. And then when you're assassinated for saying that, some jerk like Representative James Clyburn says, oh, so he's racist. When in fact, what you're trying to do is remove these policies so that the very most qualified person, regardless of their race, are in position. So when you see that black pilot, you say to yourself, that's a great pilot. If that's racist, call me racist. So now the debate ensues. And of course, Abby Phillip decides that James Clyburn, congressman for 3 decades, and a man who has been in the public square for 5 decades, can't fight this fight himself. And so she needs to jump in.
Gotcha.
Saying that.
And so what's wrong with affirmative action?
No.
Look, you're telling me that when I came out of college and couldn't get a job, that was because I was not qualified?
That's not what I'm saying.
But what are you saying?
What I'm saying is Charlie Kirk was very clear. If these companies openly say that they have to somehow fill a quota of people, whether it be a race or gender, not based on merit, but based on their race or gender, the obvious should be clear to everyone, which is that person then qualified?
So
that's an obvious question. Because of the bar that the corporation itself set up by saying publicly, we're going to do this type of DEI hiring, then you have to wonder, is it because of their race or their gender?
Can I just that's not what it is.
Hold on,
That's not what it is. Hogan, why would you have to wonder? Yeah, I mean, why would you have to wonder that?
Yeah.
The only reason you would wonder that is if you're inclined to believe that nobody can be qualified if they are black and brown going into those roles. But here's one other thing that I think is just a factual dispute with what you're describing. You're suggesting that the standards are lower for people of color filling these roles when there is absolutely
the exact opposite.
No evidence.
Exact opposite.
No, but that's what you said.
It isn't.
Hold on, Hogan. You said that they are only getting these jobs because of their race or gender,
That's not what I said.
not because they are qualified.
No,
so are they?
That is, by the way, that is literally not what he said. We just played what he said. She was just sitting there listening to what he said. She's the host of the show. She's supposed to be listening. What he said was, if a company announces or proclaims or is forced by the government to instill quotas for people based on their skin color or their gender or what have you, then the seed is planted in people's head that they got the job because of those things instead of being the most qualified for the job. By the way, it's very important that you understand what they've done here in shifting the language, because I keep saying over and over again, when you're hiring an airline pilot, when you're hiring a brain surgeon, you don't want someone who meets qualifications. You want the most qualified. I keep saying it over and over again, the most qualified. When you walk on a plane and you see someone sitting in that chair and he's about to have 300 lives in his hands, you want to make sure that they're the most qualified to do that job. And she keeps saying meets the qualifications, which is not the same. You see, let's say you're hiring 100 people and you've got 500 people to be an airline pilot that meet the bare minimum qualifications. You've got 500 candidates. They all meet the qualifications for the job. But if you're hiring a pilot, don't you want to hire the 100 most qualified? Of course you do. Well, 500 of them meet the bare minimum qualifications. So let's hire number 400 through 499. The top 400 qualifiers, screw them. They can go somewhere else. Right? But you notice Abby Phillips keeps saying, meet the qualifications versus what we've been saying, which is the most qualified. And that's a critical, important thing. But now Abby Phillips is about to lie, lying about what Hogan Gidley just said. And then even worse, lying about Clarence Thomas. Wait.
Qualified or not?
That's not what I said.
Are they qualified or not?
What I said was
is a pilot sitting in a hold on, Hogan, is a pilot sitting on an airplane, flying a plane, whether he's black or white or a woman or gay or lesbian, if they are sitting in that seat and they meet the FAA requirements for being in that seat, are they qualified?
If they are qualified, I sure hope so.
Are they? But you don't believe that they're qualified.
That's not what I
because
said.
of
What I said was, if the criteria was their race or gender,
yeah,
then
but
how am I to know
that's
if the
why I'm telling you,
qualification is
Hogan,
there?
that
We
is
had
a
a president of the
factual
United States.
error that
we
you
had
are
a
making.
president of the
Hold
United
on,
States,
Hogan,
and
I
Joe
don't want
Biden,
you to
who came out and said
Hogan, you're
he
changing.
wanted
Listen, I don't want you to change the subject
woman
because
of
you are
color
making
to be the vice president. So when I noticed
Hogan,
that's what he said, that's not my fault.
Hold on, my
Joe
friend.
Biden said it.
You were in the White House when Donald Trump said he was going to put a woman on the Supreme Court, and then he picked Amy Coney Barrett. Is she not qualified?
She is extremely qualified.
Okay, so why is she qualified, but Ketanji Brown Jackson is not?
He talked about the qualification as well. What I'm saying is, in that clear directive.
Yeah, real fast. President Trump said she's the most qualified. Look at the school she went to. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. I love her writings. I love her opinions. And she's a woman. And I want her because she's a woman. And real fast, the people in Washington, D.C., who spent every single day saying that Amy Coney Barrett was not qualified were the people like Abby Phillips and James Clyburn and the Democrats. They're the ones who said that Amy Coney Barrett wasn't qualified. But now, to make her political point, well, are you saying that Amy Coney Barrett isn't qualified? But it gets worse.
From Joe Biden in the clear directive from those companies, they are saying we are filling.
Let me ask.
They're not even saying filling.
I'm
going to
ask you again because I think you have another opportunity to really think this through. Donald Trump said, "I am going to pick a woman to go on the Supreme Court." Oh, you know what? Let me give you another one.
So should he not have
George H.W. Bush said, "I am going to pick I'm going to pick a black man to fill a role on the Supreme Court." Are those people unqualified?
So that's a lie. George Herbert Walker Bush, President of the United States, did not say, "I'm going to pick a black man to be on the Supreme Court." Never happened. She just made that up. Justice Thurgood Marshall, the first black man on the Supreme Court, put on the Supreme Court by an absolute racist, Lyndon Johnson, but that's a whole other story. He announced his retirement. And George Herbert Walker Bush was charged with replacing Thurgood Marshall. There was a lot of pressure on him by the likes of Abby Phillips and other people in the media that he choose a black man. He never said that he had any racial criteria for who he was choosing, but he narrowed down his choices to two: Justice Clarence Thomas and a circuit court judge named Emilio Garza. Emilio Garza, not a black man. Those are the two men that he interviewed. He chose Clarence Thomas. But he never said, "I got to find a black guy." Never happened. What she just said never happened. He interviewed two potential candidates: Clarence Thomas, Emilio Garza. He chose Clarence Thomas. And by the way, the moment he announced Clarence Thomas, running all the way through today, September 24th, 2025, Democrats and the left and the media and people like Abby Phillips continue to lie about Clarence Thomas, slime him, slander him, defame him, and say that he was a token pick, wasn't qualified, and shouldn't be on the bench, despite the fact that he's one of the longest serving justices and writes opinions that are beyond brilliant. But they're the one. They immediately said he was a token, which, by the way, Abby Phillips, sort of proves the point. That's what's so maddening about this exchange. Number one, it's a lie. And number two, they're the ones. They're the ones who say people like Clarence Thomas are there because they're a token. They said it about Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Powell. They said it about Condoleezza Rice. Anytime you see a black or a female or a gay Republican, they immediately tell you, well, they're only there because of their skin color or because they're a woman or because they're gay, because it makes those white Christian conservative, straight, bigoted, racist conservatives look better. But they're not qualified. They're just tokens. They're the ones who do that, and they then project their bigotry and their hatred on the rest of us. But here's the solution to the whole thing, guys. Let's just do away with DEI and affirmative action and judging people based on the color of their skin instead of the content of their character. You do away with all of that, and then nobody's a token. Nobody's just there to fill a quota. No one's there just because they check a box. Everybody's there because they're eminently qualified. That's the solution. That's actually what Charlie Kirk was saying before James Clyburn decided to slander him without him being able to defend himself. But that's what they do because they're full of hate. All right, that's it for today's marathon show. I didn't realize we were going that long. I'm sorry. I get passionate about these things, and then I just talk and talk and talk. It's time for your Super Chats. We'll start with the Rumble crew. $5 from Arthur Brogdon. Larry, at this point, we're averaging one deranged left-wing killer every 3 GD days. Yeah. No, they're just suffering from mental illness. And you know what, Arthur, they don't belong to any group. They're just sick. They're just sick. Until they're not left-wing. $5 from Casperius over there at Rumble. Kimmel's joke tonight will be that the ICE agents were attacked by MAGA for not being deporty enough. You know what? For a little while there. So no law enforcement, no ICE agents were killed. Thank God for that today. But it was reported that one of the people killed was a detainee. And they were speculating on cable news and on social media that this was a right-wing MAGA type who was trying to kill illegal aliens. I kid you not. That was the open speculation when this story was being reported. All right, $5 also from Casperius. We should call Jimmy Kimmel Wheezy from now on for his fake emotion apology and for his wish on the unvaxxed a few years back. Yeah, I remember when he called you. Yeah, you don't get a hospital bed, Wheezy. Oh, and Kevin tells me that Kimmel is Catholic. Okay, well, I'm glad I made that point. All right, let's get to your other super chats here today. Stumble Boots with a $5 super chat from Clippy. Thank you. You're cool too, Clippy. I appreciate it. Wow, we got up to $5 with Clippy. Lavon Mahoney, $9.99. Always the best news offered here on YouTube. Truly appreciate your hard work. Thank you. Thank you, Lavon. I appreciate it. We do put a lot of work into this show. Sweet Sunset with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Larry. Thank you bringing us the truth. And thank you, Kevin, for keeping it real. Wait, do I not keep it real? Kevin, are you the only one who keeps it real around here?
Dude, I keep it so real.
You are always keeping it real. Kevin actually has a business card, and it just says, Kevin, keeping it real. That's what he does.
They don't give me business cards.
God's best friend. You know why? Because you'd be around town at those happy hours in DC, handing them off to, interns and pages, trying to big shot, saying, hey, don't you know who I am? I'm Kevin from Larry. Let's go. Can I buy you a drink, honey?
I'm probably the least swampy DC swamp person in the world.
Right. In fact, have you even been to one of those happy hours?
Maybe twice.
Yeah. God's best friend with a £2 super chat. Trump's ear to appear before a jury of its peers. Wow. That's like a Gilbert and Sullivan lyric. You are the very model of a modern major general. All right, there you go. Little musical theater reference there. Technically, that's operetta. Meg with a $10 super chat. Is it just me, or is Hillary starting to physically look like Soros? Yeah, it's the eyes. It's those giant bags under the eyes. She did not get a good makeover or a hair thing. What's going on with the MSNBC hair and makeup room, man? That was rough. Thank you, Patrick. £10 over there in the UK. Dems want ICE officers murdered to deter recruitment. Calling any government officer Gestapo, Nazi, etc. is now a real-world call to violence. It's not free speech. Is it time to make it a crime? It's incitement. It's absolute incitement, Patrick, and I think you're right. But the good news is the last go-around when ICE agents were under threat, after the big, beautiful bill was passed and there was more funding for ICE, DHS announced recruitment, and they had like 10,000 applicants overnight. Americans are lining up to become ICE agents right now to protect the homeland. It's not working. Angela with the $2 super chat. Kimmel's only job is to be funny. He fails. He should be fired. Yeah, that's true. He has one job. Ball State alum. Hello, Jeffrey. $10 super chat. Why is Gollum on morning show? Oh my God, she does sort of look like Smeagol. God, what is wrong with me today? Precious.
That's
Smeagol.
embarrassing.
I know. I couldn't remember Gollum's actual name is Smeagol. I apologize. I could have just said Gollum. At least I was going the extra mile and showing my Tolkien cred. By the way, what? Go ahead.
I was just going to say that you really showed your Tolkien cred right there.
Well, fuck you. Oh, I mean, Kevin, hold on. Can you help me out? Or maybe the chat can help me out. Meredith and I were looking for a movie that is like, it's a movie between the two of them, between C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien, where they like, Tolkien, I think, is trying to, it's a religious movie, but we couldn't find it last night. We were looking all over for it. Do you know what movie I'm talking about? Where the two of them like sort of engage in a debate of ideas about Christianity?
No.
Well, if you know what movie I'm talking about, put it in the chat, please. All right. Angela, Erica, I'm just sure Erica is focusing on Instagram. What a clown. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I sent my condolences on Instagram. The grieving widow was kind of busy that day. You jerk. Thank you, Angela. God's best friend, £2 super chat. Larry, please donate this to Jimmy. Jimmy Kimmel? No. He's talking about, why would I donate £2 to Jimmy Kimmel? That's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Angela, $5 super chat. I was banned from Twitter even before POTUS. Facebook. And wow, what did you do on Twitter, Angela, that you got banned so quickly? Facebook in 2022 for reporting my daddy died the day after having a flu shot and COVID booster. Wow. Yeah, see, that's exactly what we're talking about. That's the worst. See, it's so-called censorship of a Hollywood comedian late night host. That's not serious. It's not anything. And nobody's stopping him or the likes of him from saying whatever the hell they want. But who speaks on behalf of Angela when the government shuts her down? Nobody. They don't care. They're just, they have a broken moral compass, these people. Thank you, Angela. $2 super chat. Clyburn is one of the most racist fools in the USA. That is your opinion, Angela, and I don't have any evidence to dispute it. Colleen Daly, $5 super chat. The way the UN treated our duly elected president yesterday is a slap in the face and disrespectful to anyone who voted for President Trump. Yeah, we showed you that yesterday during the speech, and it was disrespectful. Wonder, maybe UN might be on the clock here. Thank you for that, Colleen. Psychological projectionist, £2 super chat. Look at what DEI did to the DNC. Yeah. Although this time around, I guarantee you that the Democrats will nominate a straight white man. Don't forget to like and subscribe, follow us, and get the alerts as we love coming at you every single day. We have a full slate of shows the rest of the week, don't we? Thursday and Friday? We sure do.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we'll be back tomorrow and Friday. Next week, we have an odd schedule, but we'll talk about that as we get closer to airtime. Anyway, thank you for watching today. We'll be back tomorrow. And check out my shirt. Do you like my shirt? Did we hear anything in the chat about my shirt?
I didn't see anything.
Let me know what you think of my shirt. You could get one too, you know. Tolkien and Lewis, Myth, Imagination, and the Quest for Meaning. Is that the one? All right. Thank you, Longshanks. Appreciate it. I'll look for it. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.